Wayfeather Media presents Clairvoyaging. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning.
In that order.
All of those. Hello.
Hello.
Well, it's another day.
It's another comfortable intro from Frank and Lauren.
It's another day in the Leon household.
It sure is.
COVID strikes again.
Again, guess what I'm up for?
What?
4. This is number 4. This is round 4 for me.
Yeah. I think I don't have it. So this one's not on me.
Look at, she just rubs it in my face.
I don't know. Maybe I'm still immune. Anyway, hello, everyone. We've got a fun show today.
Man, she sells it. Listen up. We've got a special one today. This one's a big deal to me. I had the nervous sweats. Full disclosure.
You did.
I did.
Frank walked away sweating for sure.
It was either COVID or just my nervousness.
Yeah, I think you were excited. He's a fan.
I'm a big fan.
I am too.
You are now.
Yes.
So we had Sara Reeves on the show and had a great conversation. Sara is probably made popular from the podcast called the Night Owl Podcast. The Night Owl Podcast is kind of like a ghost hunting show, except for it's a podcast. And if it were a show, it would have been the best show that's a ghost hunting show that I've ever seen, but it's a podcast. And Sara, for a while, was the resident psychic. And oh man, like the show itself is amazing, and the host Steven does an incredible job, and I recommend it to anybody who's interested in any of the paranormal stuff. But Sara's participation on it was just a pleasure. She was kind of like bringing in the big guns, and she just her approach to talking to spirits and stuff. She has a very strong command of the field. She's
like having conversations. Like, okay, well, what are you doing here? No, you're going to talk to me? It's so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm much further behind from Frank. Frank is like very caught up with that podcast.
Very caught up.
I'm not, but I became an immediate fan. So
yeah.
She's no longer on that podcast. She is doing her own stuff because she's a badass.
Yeah. And Sara started her own metaphysical school for psychic training called Metaphysical U.
Yeah. She's teaching intuition development and mediumship.
And I think she kind of helped us along the way too.
I think so.
And then she also has her own podcast called MP Unleashed, where she hosts it alongside some of the other practitioners at Metaphysical U.
Yeah, she's so cool. I need to listen to her insight again, because hearing it the first time, I was like, oh, I need to take all of this in. And so
I took notes the first time around while we were talking to her. And then I took notes again while I was editing, because I'm like, this is some good stuff.
Yeah.
And also, I might have cut it out, but her husband, Renee, made a sneak appearance during the interview, which I was very excited, because he also is someone who showed up on the Night Owl podcast. So I hope you enjoy it. Lauren, any final words before we get into it?
Enjoy Sara Reeves.
Enjoy Sara Reeves. We did. Sara Reeves, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys reaching out.
Full disclosure, because I haven't already said it, even though we've been talking for 5 minutes or something. But to me, you are like an A-list celebrity. I am a giant fan. I listen to,
thank you.
Yeah, I listen to all of the Night Owl podcasts, and I feel like that really gave me a little bit an idea of how you've grown as a medium, and you've helped me personally. You've shown me how to not be afraid of the unknown. I've really seen how spirits really are just people, and you have to set your boundaries just like you would with the living and all that. And it's been an absolute pleasure to hear you work.
That's wonderful. I'm just glad you're leaning into your intuition. So that's good. Anything I can do to help for that, that's fabulous.
Frank's always been such a fan of, listening to anything paranormal. And there was a shift all of a sudden. You were like, okay, I remember you saying, I don't feel that scared. Spirits are just people. And it seems like they're everywhere. And I kind of got this conversation going in the last 6 months, along with our family, one of our family members experiencing something that we were like, let's dive a little deeper.
Right.
I like it.
So if you don't mind, can you tell us about yourself and how you got started? I feel like I'm somewhat familiar, but for those out there who aren't super mega fans like myself.
Well, it depends on what point in time you want to say got started. So I've been pretty much doing this, right? Whatever my living in my intuition for like since I was born, right? Since I was little. It's just that when we have children, the life does not become ours anymore. And so parts of myself just kind of like not necessarily forgot about the fact that I could do this. It just wasn't important, right? It wasn't the priority one of things. I was just trying to keep my kids alive, which was nice. And then, flying on intuition, that's kind of where you are, where you're just trying to stay awake and stay alive, when your kids are toddlers and like all these weird things are going on and you're trying to figure yourself out. And then, my husband actually kicked all of this off, so it wasn't really me. He reached out to an occult team to come out and investigate our house because we started having so many very unusual issues, to the point where my daughter, who's she will openly be like, no, I don't want to deal with this stuff. Like, I'm not a sensitive person. She was having experiences that she couldn't deny. Something's happening. We need to figure things out, right? So he reached out. I thought it was extreme on my husband's part to be like, we need to get, some form of Ghostbusters, right, and into our house and look at this stuff. And Steven's team came in, right? So it was at the time they were an occult team, and it was basically the whole same team from the podcast, right? It was before he even got married, so it was like one of those weird things that I met them like right when they were, gonna get married and stuff. So it was real fun.
That's awesome.
And it was a blessing and a curse, right? Like that whole meeting, it was just kind of like, oh, it's not your house, it's you. So figure your life out. Okay, thanks, bye.
Wow.
And so he left me with some information and a really good contact. And Alexis has always been really great about, sharing information and things and where I could go, to, and then it just kind of kicked in and I went, wait. I got to go back to my family because I know that we all believe in this stuff. And then there's, history of the things that we could do, prior to us, right? Generations before us. And then it just kicked everything off. Right. 5 years later, Stephen was like, let's do this thing. Tricked me.
Right.
Never say yes to a cup of coffee with Stephen.
Apparently. Yeah. There's always something to it.
So
you were experiencing things in your house and this team was like, no, it's actually you are attracting like spirits to you.
Like that's your fault. I was like, oh, well, okay, well, let me own that, right? Thanks.
Was your husband oh, great, Sarah?
He was just, he's always been a big fan of the paranormal and the unexplained. That's not something which I think I got really lucky in, because when I talk to a lot of the students that I have and people that have come to me, they come from places where they don't have that, right? They don't have that support system, right? Anybody that believes that they're in hiding, or essentially, right? Then in ghost protection programs, right? So we together as a couple kind of just were like, okay, this is a thing, right? Like, this is a thing that I've got to figure out how to do. And then it just kind of like clicked, because he was like, you do a lot of weird, there are a lot of weird things that you do. And there's a lot of weird things that he does too, right? That I'm aware of. I'm like, oh, he has this magic button that does stuff. And it was really just being able to put, labels and names and understanding behind it that kind of drove us forward, right? It's good that I had a partner that didn't think I was crazy.
Yeah. I wish Lauren had that. Unfortunately, her partner feels like she's crazy.
It's true. Yeah.
If it's not too personal, like what kind of stuff was going on around your house?
My house is in the perfect space of weird things can happen in our house. So we're backed up against a creek. There's a creek behind our house. We've got like a lot of, critters and things that kind of run around. So we have a lot of nature stuff that's going in, and it's in a really strange, close to a historically monumental part of our city. So when we first got the house, there were already things that were happening. My husband was like, at the time we got it, I was overseas and I didn't even know what the house looked like, right? He picked it out. So I was overseas and he was kind of moving us in, and he said he was like, I don't know, like I would come and nothing was fine. Everything was fine. Nothing was on. And all of a sudden the burners in the kitchen would be like bright red, like the coils would be bright red.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
He was like, he would go and look, is there an electrical thing, right? He's thinking it's a new house. They didn't tell us, weird, something electrical. And Nope, he would turn everything off, and it wasn't like the stoves that you can just like click it open. It was like push down, turn, right? It was not a right. So he was like, that's just odd.
Yeah.
Like, just really odd. And when I came, I showed up maybe a couple weeks after they were moving in and was home alone because we miscommunications, right? I got to the house before he did. And I was like, this is our house. This is really nice. And he's like, just go in, break in through the back. It's open, right? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where we are, that's not I had to be like, this is my house. Right? Breaking into the house. And so, walking in, I could feel, like, I don't know how to explain it. I could feel the house. Like I could feel the house asking, who the fuck are you? Like that was
Wow.
like that. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, Simba. I'm one of the other, I bought, I'm married to the dude that's been running around here for the last 2 weeks, right? And I remember just kind of walking and almost knowing where others were in the home.
Oof.
Like I wasn't there by myself, and I just kind of was like, okay, well, I had to kind of like, you want to show me around? And I kind of really let myself be led through the house as I was just kind of discovering stuff and not really understanding why I was doing it. I just knew I had to do it. So then, we escalated a few years later, and my son was in Heelys, if you guys remember those.
Oh, yeah.
Right. In the Heelys all around the garage floor, right? He was just having a wonderful time going around in circles, and he goes, whoa, and kind of stops, and he's in the middle of the garage, and we both run in because we thought maybe he fell, or maybe he, something fell on him or something. And he was like, there was a little boy in here. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, there was a little boy in here. I swear. And, he gave us this whole description. He's like 5 years old, right? 5 years old. And I was, I said, okay, like, whatever. It's cool. And then come to find out that this little boy was very predominant in our house. And I would see him very often because I would always mistake him for either my son or a friend of my son's, right?
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I thought your friend went home, right? Like that kind of stuff. And I was like, what is going on? And he tended to, loom and play in my son's bedroom, turn things on, turn things off, right? Stuff like that. In the back, when we first moved in, there's a homestead, like a larger homestead behind us. And that lady passed away, and she made it very clear that she was going to be roaming the property. So sometimes when we would be sitting outside, we would see her, or I would see her and go, did you see that lady? I would tell my husband, did you see this lady? No, I don't see. And I'm like, I'm telling you. And then as it kind of escalated to like things just opening and closing on their own. Sometimes we would walk in, kitchen cabinets. It looked like somebody invisible would walk in, open kitchen cabinets, close them like they were cooking or something, right? You could see the kind of progression of the things that were going on. And it was like, okay. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back when it was like really bad, I was sitting in the couch, and the way that it's kind of set up, I can see from the living room, I can see your kitchen and dining room. And then I was watching TV, hanging out with one of our dogs. He was sitting in my lap, just kind of like chilling. And my husband turned the corner of the hallway, saw us both look up towards the kitchen door. The kitchen door opened. We followed whatever it was that came in. The garage door opened, closed. And then we just went right back to watching.
Oh my God. Yeah, don't mind me.
It was like, I think we need to get some help. Right?
Oh my God.
That's wild. So
anything from, things moving around, sounds, doors opening and closing on their own, electrical issues. I mean, just like anything, you name it, it was probably happening in the house. It was insane.
Wow.
So once you started like leaning into your abilities and trying to fire them back up again, what was that process like?
That process sucked.
Oh, no.
It was because there are so many, I'm going to try to put it nicely because I'm part of the boat, right? Like, so I'm not part of that boat, but I'm part of some of the boat. There were so many people out there that are really in this to make money.
Yeah.
And they're not really in this to help you figure things out. So I needed a person that I could, be like, okay, have you ever experienced like this? And if you did, what is it like? And to explain it to me in terms that I would understand, not like, let me give you these fancy terms because maybe I paid $2 million at a fancy shit over in England.
Yeah.
I don't know. But they come up with some bullshit, right? When you're in there. And so it was really that was the hardest part, is when I got to the point where I was exceeding the knowledge that I was needing.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
Where I knew you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I need to go somewhere else. And it was very, very difficult. Alexis was very helpful. Alexis from City Alchemist, who's also on the podcast.
Right.
Extremely knowledgeable, him and Eric. And they were very helpful and kind of just like, maybe read these books or go through this stuff, because our practices are completely different. So he was really doing a wonderful job of trying to kind of keep me afloat in a lot of the knowledge. And a lot of the old family things that I had to, rehash. My sister Anna was our memory, right, of everything that was going on. So it was like, hey, do you remember when we used to do this? Do you remember why, this was? So it was just kind of piecemealing like everything together to know, okay, I know I can do that. Or, I'd get the fancy term, oh, can you do this thing?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, but what is it? Because if you can tell me what it is, I can pretty much tell you I'm doing it. So let me see if I can do it, or maybe I'm not doing it, or I got to practice it or something. And it was really a lot of doing that, right? Just kind of like pinpointing, different things. And luckily, the Night Owl led me to Elaine, right? Elaine Ireland is my mentor now. She's freaking amazing, and she's been working in this industry since she was a kid, right? So she has like over 60 years of experience in just doing all this stuff.
Wow.
That's wild.
And she very plainly was like, oh, honey, this is what you're doing, right? Like she knew exactly what I was, and let me, connect you to this other person and let it go do this other thing. And remember, let me let you read this book from like way ancient times I would have never thought to read, right?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. And I was like, oh, I love this, right? Because she is older and came up in a frame where this was hidden, right? She could be physically harmed or murdered for doing what she did in her day and age, right? Something completely. And so she was really a help to really figuring out. She's like, you're way more, advanced than you think you are. You've got to just kind of like push and move and do the things, right? She was really encouraging me to try different things out just to kind of see where I was at. And I think it was because her ability to explain what was happening was very helpful in me growing. And I was determined, once I figured it out, I was determined. I was like, nobody should be going through the shit that I went through for 5-6 years, trying to figure shit out and throwing money away and, doing stuff. Nobody to learn what your basic body is designed to do.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's just.
Wow. So it sounds like there was like quite a bit of gatekeeping with like people
there is
not wanting to like help, just like understand.
They understood that some aspects of this is it's a business. And so the leaders in a lot of these places that are, public facing are business facing. The really good practitioners, you've never heard of them.
Yeah.
Never heard of them. They are hidden away. Some of them are more afraid of their ability than you are, and they don't care to learn more. They're like, I'm dealing with the shit already.
Yeah.
I'll help you up until what I know, and then that's all I'm going to do. And they don't want to be out in the public because they don't want to have people. They don't want to put themselves in those places where they have to use their ability. It's scary to them.
Sure.
And I get that. It is. It can be scary when when you don't have somebody to support you, and you've gone years and years kind of piecemealing things together. So, the really, really good practitioners, they're not somebody that you're really going to hear from, or they're older practitioners that understand if somebody finds out what I can do, I could be harmed, or, I can do a lot of things that people could hold against me. So it's a really interesting industry.
Yeah.
If we're looking at it in form of an industry, but if you're looking at it in form of everybody's intuitive, the base knowledge of it should be something that should be openly shared. It's just, it's dumb to keep those things a secret.
Has your husband done any development, like intuitive development or anything, like through you? Like, have you taught him anything?
It took a little bit, but yes.
Yeah. Really?
Because we're married. Right?
Yeah.
So, one of those,
that makes it harder.
Maybe you should try this. It was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Oh, I know that very well.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Where do I know that from?
We're married.
Frank tries to teach me something. I'm I'm like, be quiet. Then someone tells me the same exact thing like a few weeks later.
I love
And you're
when,
like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, he used to do the same thing.
I love when Lauren gets revelations
good.
from somebody else that I dropped on her like weeks prior. It's
Yes,
fine.
yes.
It's fine.
It's part of it. It's part of it.
It's part of the marriage,
Yeah.
development, the couple development of this. You're fine. You're fine.
So, and sorry, remind me your husband's name again.
Renee.
Renee, that's right. So what is he kind of practicing?
He really is just somebody that's managing his own ability. He just doesn't openly do anything. So if he's doing any kind of practice, it's to help me. So I kind of, selfishly have trained him to help me do stuff. Right?
Oh, this is great.
My walking battery power or my walking wall that nobody can go through, right? Like, so it's just kind of fun. But his natural ability is it's connective. So he understands when the end of a connection is going to come. So he's very accurate and very scary at telling you when someone's going to pass.
Oh,
Right?
Oh.
If you meet them or he's in proximity of them, he's going to be like, that's no bueno, right? So
Wow.
he's
Really?
in all these things. His energy blocks other energy, which I'm grateful for sometimes in a protective fashion because he's very protective by nature. So I think that just emanates out of him. And he's fantastic at generating energy. So, he brings in energy that I can pull or connect to add on to my own, which is a fun thing that I think I was doing it before I even knew I was doing that to him.
poor guy. Do you just have him walking around with a bandolier of Red Bulls
like a
now?
battery? Yeah, I do. He's got those little vials of holy water.
So then with your mindset of believing that so much of this stuff should be a little bit more available, developmental like resources, was that your impetus to start the Metaphysical U?
Yeah. So I started Metaphysical U, and it really is a place where you can come to really get community and get learning, right? It is learning foundations, right? So my favorite thing is to learn the base of everything, right? Sometimes people will call it yellow and red, but the base foundation is green, right? So we just need to know what the green is. And this allows the person to truly understand how to develop. And then later when something piques their interest, like a specialization or something, then they can specialize and they understand they might have to throw some money at that, but they know exactly how to pick a practitioner that's not in it to just take their money, right? That they really are going to be learning something and kind of moving forward. And I really put the onus on the student. It is their accountability to learn this, right? I can give you all the information that you need, but you have to put it into play. I can't practice for you, right? I can't do that. So it really is just giving them that nice, how do you pick a practitioner? How do you start learning, clearing yourself? How do you start doing those things? What do you call it? What is this? What does it feel like? But in terms of what does it actually feel like? Not just like somebody telling you, oh, just push the energy. You're like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like you're trying to, you can't just do that. And so it's giving them like good practical knowledge and kind of hand holding them until they're really good to go, no, I got this. I can move. And then you're reminding them, when they get further along, hey, don't forget about your foundations, right? Don't get into bad habits,
Right.
as they kind of grow and move into their specialization.
Without giving away any trade secrets, what are there like basic foundations that everyone jumps into right away?
Yeah, there's no trade secrets, right? This is all.
That was a test.
She's
You're
a
good.
non-gatekeeper.
No such thing. Trade secrets are only the things that I share that I truly know that there's no other knowledge in it anywhere. That's my stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you don't get those unless you're more advanced
Sure.
with me. So it's bad. But a lot of the foundations, right? People who don't understand is that a lot of this work starts with self, right? It starts with us, and understanding that. And I don't know how many times people are going to record me saying this. When somebody walks up to you and says, I am an empath, you can respond by saying, me too. And that guy and the guy over there and my dog and like all the, right? Because anybody who has fight or flight is empathic.
Sure.
Right? Yay.
Yeah.
Right. We're all in this together. Right. So, okay, let's buddy up.
Yeah.
The only difference is that in empath and the multiple empathy types that we have, when we have trauma or emotional things, or we get scared because we saw something when we were little or older or whatever, we hyper develop certain ones and we don't use the other ones, right? We kind of shut ourselves off in certain areas, which is why some people can see spirits like walking through the room. Some people just see them in their mind's eye, or some people can hear things and smell things, and some people can't, right? Like there's these nuances that happen because our empathy types are out of balance, and these directly correlate with all of the clairs. So when somebody tells me I'm clairvoyant, I'm sentient, I'm clair, blah, 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 to me, those are just senses, right? That's kind of stupid for you to say, I'm clairvoyant, because you're just telling me I can see. Yeah, me too. Right? Like, yeah, me too. And it's really understanding that those are the senses that you use in the metaphysical space to receive information. And if you're too focused on one set, well, you're going to be hyper focused on one clair and not get the full picture of something that's coming in, which causes fear. I see shadows. I see gray things. I see squiggly lines. I only feel stuff that makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. This is because you're only using certain clairs in certain orders, right? I take on the emotions of other people.
And
But if you're not aware of it, you can't protect yourself from doing that. You have to be aware.
That makes sense because, sorry, when you have your elbows on the table,
I know.
you're
like,
very shaky.
I know. I always do this.
This podcast is cutthroat. You're like elbowing each other.
We really wanted you here today for just couples therapy. I don't know what you're talking about, but can you help us?
He says I make it
Face
echoey.
each other.
When Lauren puts her elbows
turn
on
around, face each other, put your palms together, look at each other.
Is that a thing?
It's a thing. Yeah, it's
Oh.
called reconnect. Connecting
What?
with each
I'm gonna write that down for later.
I'll give you some more couples therapy energy work you guys can do together and strengthen up your marriage, right?
Quit elbowing your wife.
Yeah.
But elbowing, yeah, stop elbowing each other.
Get your elbows off the table.
I'm out. So far, like from the people that we've spoken to, so a big part of our podcast is we're trying to normalize this stuff. We've got a family member. She's 6. She's getting into it. She doesn't necessarily want to, but she's got it and she can't turn it off.
I love it. You can't turn it off.
Yeah. So like we are trying to develop the abilities to at least, even if we can't see what she sees, just to be able to give her the tool set to emotionally get through maybe the hard parts. Seeing stuff when you're not used to seeing stuff. Apparently she sees spirits, like what they look like when they're dead. So she's horrified of that initially. We're like, again, from everything I learned from you, it's like they're just people. Give them boundaries, talk to them.
She can also demand that they don't do that.
And that's the thing too.
Boundary. You can set a boundary and say, I don't want to see you like that. I need you to see you like when you were happy.
Right?
She can demand that.
Yeah.
And she, just empower her to understand that she has the power to tell them to go away or not right now.
Yeah.
And, stranger danger is a real thing with children in any setting,
Right.
in the metaphysical or in the regular physical world. So it's one of those, and don't you go anywhere with the spirit ever.
Oh,
You come get me,
that's a new
right? You can.
Oh, yeah.
I'm suddenly scared. Yeah.
Yeah, don't you go anywhere. No, nowhere with them in dreams or when you're awake. You stay where you are and you call for me.
Oh, yeah. I haven't heard that.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
To your point that you were saying earlier, the more mediums and psychics we've spoken to, they are all very hesitant to label it, like you're saying. Obviously, when you're talking to someone else, labeling it is kind of helpful. Oh, yeah, like I'm clairvoyant and I can see spirits and all that stuff. But it all seems like those are all just one part of the whole.
Yes.
And you're suggesting that if you're not privy to the other skills, that it's maybe a certain amount of fear towards something?
Not necessarily fear. It is because you've survived on specific ones more, right? So to give you, and like I'll give you the example I give my students all the time, right? My favorite example. You have 8 empathy types that go together, right? So you have your plant and animal, right? You have your geomantic, your psychometric, you have your telepathic, your precognitive, right? And you have your emotional and your physical. If you think about us humans without the concrete, right? When we were hunting for our food, not in like a grocery store, but like really hunting, right? Like we were hunting down. And we didn't have cars and we didn't have automatic rifles and we didn't have any of that stuff. We were like, we had to like do the thing. We relied on everything to give us information. The earth would vibrate if you could feel something coming in a certain direction.
Mm.
You understood that there was a knowing for you to be able to reach out to somebody from miles and miles and miles away to tell them I'm okay, right? Or they're still alive. Cool, I can feel them, right? You relied on the animals, the reactions, the way that they looked at you to really understand what was happening. You relied on plants. You relied on understanding the world or the environment around you to survive.
Mm.
You had to live, okay? So now we're here, concrete, buildings, all that good stuff. When you're younger, let's just say you had a tormentor, right? Somebody that lived in your home that would torment you all the time, right? Like, whatever they tormented you with. You needed to know when that tormentor was triggered, what emotion they were in, what physical body trait they wore, because that would tell you if you were safe or not safe. If you had to hide or leave or whatever it is, you had to understand this, and you had to understand it in so much of a fashion that you developed a system that if that tormentor was in a car 2 blocks away and turned the corner, you immediately knew they were coming.
Mm.
Knew it. And you would just wait. Could you reach out and feel what emotion they were in as they were approaching? And then when you really understood what the emotion was and they drove up the driveway, you would peek out the window because physically you could see their aura and understand exactly how it would validate what you were already feeling.
Mm.
You were experiencing this and you didn't have somebody telling you what was going on. You just knew. So you relied on those senses, the understanding to feel the emotion at a distance, to feel the energy coming from somewhere else, to understand what your response had to be when you felt this energy coming to you. Fight or flight.
Right.
Wow.
So,
This is so, yeah.
So empathy types, when we kick them up, those correlate to clairs, right? Your emotional physical will correlate to a specific, either the voyant, you can see the flash in your head, and then you just know the information. And like, I know something's bad, I need to go. But we've been trained to not pay attention to that. Our society is actually designed in the opposition.
Yeah.
Right? So we're designed, oh, you're just crazy. It was just a trick of the light. You watch too much TV. We begin to dismiss things as we kind of get older and we stop trusting our intuition. But my favorite phrase is always, something told me. I felt like I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Right? My favorite phrases.
Yeah. I mean, the older I get, the more, or I've been more aware of my division personally, of how I get very like logical, heady versus what I'm feeling, and the two combat each other, and I end up kind of like in a stalemate. I'm like, damn it.
Well, the idea is to do both.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to do one or the other. You want a nice little balanced blend of two. You want to know when it's time to use your logic and when it's time to use your intuition, or maybe you have to do a combination of the two.
Right.
The thing you were saying about like, in some cases, like trauma, your trauma, you can block certain feelings or whatever. That makes so much sense. I was just like hearing you talk about the tormentor thing, and like that example is so interesting. I was just thinking about like any trauma I might have had as like a kid, and how, because I have strong like feeling empathy, or like I say I'm an empath because I feel other people's emotions, but I'm like, oh, did I block other things out as a kid?
You could have. Remember, other things happen too. Like, let's say, you're thinking, I didn't have trauma when I was a kid. I don't have anything. Why am I doing that? Well, the trauma can come not from a tormentor, but it could also come from a form of pressure.
Yeah.
Right? Be a good girl. Make sure you're always of service. There's always something that you have to do. And therefore you've rewired your body to be consistently in give mode.
Yeah.
And in order for you to give, you have to know when somebody needs something. And so you still kick that up. Oh, they're not feeling good. I need to go do something.
Yeah.
Oh, they physically something. I know something's wrong with them. I don't know what it is, but let me figure out how to help them. You still created a hyper awareness in a specific space versus balanced in everything.
Yeah.
Wait, have you are you
wild.
tapping anything right now, or have you met Lauren before?
I will not confirm nor deny anything.
Yeah.
But no, like I'm just going to be thinking about this for a while.
Yeah.
Because that's so interesting. Because, as we're trying to like develop and pay attention to our own intuition and whatever abilities we might have had as kids that we maybe pushed away or ignored, things keep coming up where we're like, I keep going, I need to heal.
Right? Don't focus on what you used to be able to do as a kid. You need to focus on what you can do now as an adult, because the awareness is different. Right? As kids, we pretty much accepted everything we saw.
Yeah.
Right? We were always walking around in a state of amazement. But it's because we just came from, a world that was different. And we're seeing this for the first time with a good pair of eyes, or that's like, wow, everything is amazing. Then over time, we get a little jaded.
Yeah.
Right? It happens. We get a little jaded.
Yeah.
And so we want to be in the awareness of who we are now and how we're experiencing things today. Right? So being in your intuition just means being aware at all times, being aware of you, your mood, how your body feels, where your thoughts are, so that when something invades, you know that it's not you. You immediately pick it up and go, oh, wait, that's not me.
Right.
And then you be aware of what's around you. Is it my coworker? Is it the driver in front of me? Where is this coming from? Because it's not mine. And if you just don't care where it's coming from, then just give it back to who. Be like, give that shit back.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you want to be kind, right, throw it into the earth and just let it be flowers in Australia for Lou. Because I say that to all my students. I have a student named Lou that's in Australia, so we send her flowers all the time. So so just go shoot it into the ground for them, give it away, whatever. But don't take it onto yourself, right? You want to move from a sense of empathy, taking everything on, to a frame of sympathy. You're aware the feeling is there. You're understanding their pain, but you're not going to bring it onto yourself.
I've started saying these are not my emotions, which has helped. Our daughter is empathic too, and we started telling her that just because she takes on stuff from school, and we're like, "Those aren't yours. It's okay." But that's a big lesson.
Back, put them into the earth. Right?
Yeah,
give them back.
How about that?
How about that?
I love the little knowing looks you guys are giving each other, because it kind of sounds like the husband's going, "You see," and the wife is going, "Yeah, shut up."
I know, yeah.
It's also me just diverting from anybody doing that to me. So
Yeah.
I'm striking first. I'm very Cobra Kai right now.
I feel like,
oh, I love it.
Yeah. I feel like in this journey, I've felt this pull to heal my I guess, I don't know, inner child or the young form of myself. Because I'm like, if I want to develop more, I feel like I need to heal even more. So I started learning Reiki and stuff, which can be a really healing process. Is that something that is part of your teaching?
No, not specific.
Cool.
I encourage you to go in and heal yourself, and where you feel that's where you go, right? So I make people look at it in two directions. First, I want you to outline fear. What are your fears? Write everything down, right? Write everything down.
Yeah.
So list your fears, right? List them. This is my fear. This is my fear. This is my fear. And then walk away from it for a little bit. And then I want you to come back and look at your list, and I want you to tell me, is the fear real using this thermometer? Have you experienced it, or have you seen somebody experience it directly with your eyes? If you haven't, it's not a real fear. Cross it off your list.
Mm.
It's not a thing. Then when you're looking at, well, I mean, this one I haven't experienced, but it really, really scares me, right? I still want it there. Fine. I want you to list what your habit response is to that fear. What's the habit? Well, when I know, even just thinking of this, my response is already this, right? Whether your body responds or your brain responds, or, you're already showing, there is a response. There's something that you're doing.
Yeah.
Then I want you to walk away. Come back a little bit later, and then I want you to look at just one fear, and I want you to tell me which one you want to work on. And then right next to it, I want you to respond what your response should be.
Mm.
And you do one at a time until you've addressed all of them. The idea is that we cannot change all at once. And we can only change what we want to change. We can't change something by force. It's not going to happen. Then you're going to understand that the fear, it never goes away. I am fucking petrified when Stephen would be like, "Hey, can you go walk in this weird ass?" I'm like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Especially because I didn't know where I was going, right? They gave me some addresses and then meet me I felt like I was doing drug deals and little it was just weird.
Yeah.
Follow me, right? Get in the car, follow me.
Yeah.
It was just weird. And then, I can feel myself coming up into the space. And so I knew when I needed to have fear, or him just simply telling me, "Hey, we've got a case, blah, 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 blah." And I know it scared him. And I could feel the energy from that and go, "Oh, this is going to be fucking horrific."
Yeah.
What the hell
Oh,
are
God.
you? The idea, though, is to understand how to respond to it. You've got to first understand, should I be afraid? And if I should be, what should my actual response be? Right? Not just screaming and, jumping on a counter like I do when I see a cockroach, but, having a more logical response to it. Right. So this is where your logic and your intuition kind of come into play, because you logically have to wait until you really have to respond, not react. Right. You're responding, not reacting. And so you train yourself in the response. So that way, when the fear does come up again, you apply what you've trained.
Would you say it's almost like accepting your like vulnerabilities and then, like you said, just training for them instead of trying to be stronger than them?
Yeah, essentially, that's what you're doing.
All right, let's hang up. I figured it out.
Right? So fears is one, right? And confidence is the other, right? The confidence, when you're saying, using that same term, you're using the confidence. The confidence is the key to being protected. That and belief systems, right?
Mm.
So when you're looking at confidence, you're looking at the thing that you tell yourself that you're a bad person for, that you don't want anybody else to know, right? You're like, ooh, if they knew that I was like that, right? That's my closet secret.
Yeah.
And you beat yourself up about it, right? You tell yourself, man, you're such a horrible person because you do this, or you're such a terrible person because you like this, or you're just blah, 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 right? You start beating the crap out of yourself in your brain.
Yeah.
The idea is to identify that same skeleton, right? You identify it, do the same thing. List that sucker out, right? List it out. Then I want you to realistically look at it. And the things that you can't control, like for example, right? Frank might like the smell of stinky toes, right? It is what it is.
What?
He's
She's
like,
good.
Toes. Right?
Toes.
Read your mind. I told you. Read your mind. You can't change that. That's just a scent that you find pleasing. You can't change that about you, right? There's nothing you can do about that. Are you going to walk around telling everybody that, you like the smell? Maybe not, right? Like maybe that a stinky toe smells. You're not going to be like, I love it. Wear the t-shirt, right? Announce it on your social medias. Like, no. You're probably not going to do that. But it is not something that you can change because you just find it pleasant. That's just normal wiring. That's just you, right? But if there's something that you actually have an option to do, like, I'm a little bit of a dick at the grocery store all the time, right? And you don't like that about yourself. And then you beat up on yourself because you're like, I'm a good, belief system person, except when I'm at the grocery store and the guy cuts me off with this grocery cart. I don't know, whatever it is. So that is something that you might go, okay, well, I really could change that. I do have the option of not doing that. Let me work on that habit. The reason why we work on the confidence and the fear is because if you are going to have an entity that is a little bit of a dick, right? A little bit of a negative, they're going to attack those things first. To get in your body, to get in your brain, to get in your mind, they're going to mask themselves as you because you can't tell the difference between them and you.
Don't do that.
And they're going to tell you the same things that you do. They're going to go, oh, they beat the shit out of themselves in their brain. I can do better than that. And they're going to start pummeling you down that trail. And you're going to be so dumb, you're going to fall for it because you don't know the difference between your phrasing and the phrasing of something else. And you're just going to fall right in.
This would be like like a spirit with like a bad intention, or just like someone who's kind of rude and like knows how to.
It could be a spirit that just understands that energy, right? You might be, let's say you had a sudden loss in family, and you're starting to beat yourself up about I shoulda, coulda, woulda done these things, and I'm a terrible human, and I'm grieving, and I'm sad, and I'm hurting, and I'm in pain. And this entity is floating by going, hey, I recognize that shit. I'm going to go tag along. And every time you say, I'm grieving, I'm such a terrible person, I should have, they're going to be like, yeah, you should have. You should have done more. You could have done this. You could have, wow, that's true. I could have done that. Right? Your mind is now completely ensnared. And then he's like, this is, man, Frank is the best. Hey, dude, come over here. This guy, perfect for us. And then they invite somebody else to jump in.
Wait, what's in it for them here?
The feeling, the emotion. These
it.
are entities that want to stay in that vibration. They want that. That's what they want. They want you to give them back the vibration of feeling that way. They're justifying how they can stay here through you.
Turds.
I need to meditate more.
Church.
There's no way.
Raise our vibrations more.
So is that like what are your antidotes to that aside from listing things out and like getting your logical mind on top of like your own?
Antidote is to understand your awareness, know yourself.
Yeah.
Know yourself, and for God's sakes, get a belief system, right? It doesn't have to be mine. It has to be yours, and you have to believe it, and you have to understand why, right? Very, very simply, looking at my desk. Okay, here's this. Like, here we go. I can tell you this is a holy tape measure. This is the holiest tape measure. You can draw it open, lay it on the ground, and nothing can cross this tape measure because it is protected.
Got it. So
Right?
it's your like buying into that system that is what is going to make it work.
That's exactly what it's going to do.
Do you?
But here's the fun part.
Yeah.
If you help someone else, if you help somebody else, you're helping your wife, and she's having issues with her belief system, but she's got a partial system. You have to understand what her partial system is because you need her to buy in also.
I think you and I are pretty aligned
Mhm.
with that stuff.
Yeah.
But I would probably describe it as partial. I'm a post-Catholic, so I've done a lot of dismantling and not a lot of remantling in any kind of way. I have gaps where personally I could use a little bit of help getting through some of that stuff. Maybe that's,
Yeah.
is that what we're doing? Is that why we're doing this?
Congratulations. Yes. You've won the $1 million question.
Thanks, Sarah. I need a better belief system.
You're dismantling the thing that doesn't fit, right? Which makes sense. Catholicism didn't fit me either.
Yeah.
So many stories about that, but we're not going to get into that one.
Oh, trust me. That's a whole other podcast. I'd love to do it one day.
That is a whole podcast series. So we have to understand where we lie in the things that make sense to us, right? Individually, right? A belief is a belief. You want to believe certain things, but you have to understand why you're believing them, right? You have to be able to almost explain it to someone else when they ask you, hey, what is your belief system like? And explain it in such a way where you don't care if they understand it. Right. You just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, well it's just what works for me. That might not work for you. And that's perfectly fine. But in practice, as practitioners like me, where I help other people, I need to understand what they believe because they are designing that for themselves. And I need to understand it so that when I'm trying to help them, let's say, maybe I'm trying to help them do a healing, or I'm trying to help them, maybe what they believe is an attachment, need to move that attachment away. I need them to understand how much power they have in that belief and combine it with mine to make it happen.
Do you just like walk around and you can like tell, like, especially with kids, is there like, oh, that kid is a sensitive, or that kid is...
Kids can't hide because they are so close to the light. You can't. But I can tell you when a kid is being abused because the light will dim. Like that is an immediate thing that I can tell.
Whoa.
And so it's one of those things where you're like, what's happening over there at that space? You can immediately tell when that something is wrong because the light will dim. Like it won't be as bright. They won't trust that connection because of what's happening to them.
Oh man, you've like, I don't know, that's a lot to like see or like experience for you. Just like,
I don't know. To me, it's normal.
Right.
I've been able to. I was little, so it's not like it's not a unusual thing for me. It's just kind of go, oh, I can just tell, and maybe I'll send a guide or send a something, but because I can't be walking up to people I don't know and be like, hey, why are you fucking around with this kid?
Yeah.
So instead, I just like send my dudes, right? Like, here, go help that one a little bit, or move for them, connect them, or reconnect them so that they can keep safe.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, but it seems like maybe you're so accustomed to this stuff. For people who have the level of ability that you do, like how do you, when you see something that can be somewhat disturbing, how do you maintain like a healthy mental outlook on stuff? What do you do to stay sane?
Everything in our environment is mentally disturbing, so it's not like there is no rhyme or reason for it. There's a lot of things that happen that we as people that are intuitive cannot really get involved in some things because it is something that the person has to either learn or experience, and it's part of the growth of what they're doing, not just the person who's being victimized, but also the person who's victimizing, right? Mm-hmm. There's also something that's kind of going on in that era. So there's things that do come to us directly that we can assist with, right? And we're kind of bound to do so. We're kind of like, oh, this has showed up, I'm just going to have to really handle it. And there are some things that we don't, right? That we just kind of go, fuck, that sucks. That's just what they got to learn.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Can't interfere with it.
Yeah.
We can only interfere with what's brought to us that we're supposed to be interfering with.
Yeah. I always ask people this because I think it's interesting to me. Like, are you constantly bombarded or do you have an off switch?
there's no off, and there's a partition, right? There's a, hey, stand over there and don't bother me until 2.
Got it.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah. Like
So
walking through a crowded space.
I have to be well prepared for it. Yes, very well prepared for it. So I found myself as an older person, right, getting a little older. I typically don't do big crowded things.
Yeah.
I was going to ask
Not
you,
my thing.
what is your most challenging environment?
Like concerts or things that we're in Austin, so like that people come out in droves in,
Yeah.
right? That have like big open spaces, and even then, it's still hard, right? So it's just depending on where we are and how badly I want to be there, kind of thing. So it just depends on the setting. But I try to avoid really bad crowded places as much as humanly possible, right? COVID was a nice little blessing for me.
Oh yeah.
Because after there's all this, just deliver it to your house. Fantastic. I have to fight all those people at the Target or the Walmart.
The physical people and all the spirits that you're just encountering.
So it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. What is more overwhelming though? Is it what's going on with the living, or the number of spirits that are just around all the time?
It's more what's going on with the living.
Yeah. Spirits
are more, the rules are more defined,
Okay.
I guess, if that's what it is. So when we build a boundary with a spirit, the boundary's built. They respect it. If we mean it, right? We have to mean the boundary. If we don't, it's going to walk all over us. But if we build a boundary with a human, even if we mean it, the human's still going to push it, right? That's we're designed to do that. If not, we wouldn't be innovative, right? Or creative or any of that stuff. We're designed to kind of like, is it a really rule? I don't know, right? That's what we're designed to do. So humans, for me, one-on-one or in couples, love it. But crowds of humans, that's something I don't do well, nor do I have a good response for. Right?
Yeah.
So, I'll always tell somebody I'm a little bit of an asshole, right? I'm not a nice person all the time. So just, you got to find me at the right time. Right?
Man, no, that's going to be my excuse from now on. I needed a good one, and this is it.
Take it.
So you said you have a good support group. Your husband being one of them. What can people around you do to be more supportive of what you're maybe experiencing that they're not? What comprises a good support group?
I think it depends on the situation. Yeah, I need to have, people who really, really know me that are around me understand that I'm not on all the time. It's not a thing for me to want to willingly be chipper and happy, right? I really like to just be very calm and quiet. That's just kind of like it is. And a lot of people are always surprised when they come to the house and it's like, wow, it's really quiet in here. I'm like, yeah, I don't like all noises. I'm just very one of those just super chill.
Yeah.
But I have my moments, right? I have my moments where I want to go do stuff and see people and be around people, but they have to be specific kind of it has to be something that I chose to want to get into.
Are there people or friends or family that seek a sudden reading or anything? Or do you feel whoa, I don't feel like that right now? Or does everyone respect that space?
Pretty much my family on all sides. I want to say on all sides, because I have a very complex family history. So my family on all sides are all intuitive in some form or fashion.
Oh.
So we don't do that unless we seek advice in certain things, but we don't necessarily tell the other person I'm getting it from a spirit, right? I'm talking to your guides.
Yeah.
We just don't do that. We just kind of know and talk to each other about stuff like that. So it's very rare. But I've had a few cousins or some certain friends that are I practice on them, right? I was practicing on them when I was learning, or sometimes I'm just like, hey, do you want one? Why not? Let's play. Sure, why not? Right? They just let me do stuff. So they've been pretty good about that. But most of my family members have a form of intuition that we just know that it's there, and we don't necessarily seek it out.
Wow. Okay. So when you were a kid, it was just oh yeah,
it's very,
just join the club, Sarah.
It was very, very normal.
Yeah. Wow.
Even though their belief systems again was towards the Catholicism and all that, because I grew up in a Hispanic household, we also believe in the cucuy and the curanderas and the the soldadoras, all that stuff. But we believed in all of that, so it was just normal.
I feel like you're concocting.
I'm just making sure I got it.
Frank always has his little
I have
tiny notebook.
a reporter's notebook here.
I've got the same thing. All of my Post-it notes, notebooks.
We pull tarot on occasion, and I have like a couple of cards up here just as reminders, and just so I don't forget what I pulled them in reference to, I have little Post-its. It's the perfect combination of like, I used to work in cubicles, but also I like tarot. It's kind of embarrassing.
And I love it. Oh, that's awesome. You need to like a picture of it, like a little meme up or something. That's fantastic.
Yeah. That is really funny.
What's the best way to contact your spirit guides? Because that's something that I've been trying to do, and I just can't. I'm not doing a good job yet. I know there's a lot of work I can do with some of the more basic stuff, but
there's not a best way. There's a way you got to figure it out for you. But tell me what you've been trying. That's going to be probably the starting point. What have you been doing?
I'm trying to, well, I haven't been doing very good lately, but for a while I was just trying to just speak out loud to them on a daily basis as if they're just there, and give them full permission to intervene and contact me in any way I can be contacted or perceive them.
Like we've said, like, oh, you can show me a sign that you're around.
Yeah.
And we each had like a little like thing. Like I had like as soon as I said that, I had a grasshopper jump on my windshield, like as I was driving, and that's never happened before. And I was like, okay, I hear you. You're here. And then you had like a butterfly, like go back and forth.
Something similar, but like a butterfly kind of cut me off from even finishing the sentence, which was interesting. But I'd love a deeper dialogue at some point, or something that's a little more tangible.
I think your approach is the problem, right?
I think you're probably right.
it's a lot of monkey dance, versus I know you're there. Let's have a conversation.
Okay.
Making time for the conversation, right? So, there's a meditation I tell my students to do. It's called Bathing in Light. It's one of the foundational meditations that we teach. And this is kind of a foundational meditation that's pretty much taught everywhere, right? So I just gave it a name, but it's other people know it by different names. So the idea is to connect with source, whatever the source of yourself is, right? So in my instance, I will sit and, okay, it's a little morbid on me, right? Like the poltergeist lampshade, from the sign, the little lampshade is in the street. Okay, so I like being under that. So I'll put myself under that lampshade and then just kind of sit there in that nice little amber low glow. And then I will begin to heat the light, make it brighter, see it in my mind's eye as literally my source, just light coming over my body. It'll go over my body, underneath my feet, and I'm encapsulated in that cone of light with just me in my source. I give it a color. I give it a scent. I understand when it starts to move over my body and all the shadows from everywhere, inside my nose, inside my ears, everything gets pummeled in light. And then I just surround myself in there. In that space, it's just me and source. Nothing else can get in there unless I ask it to. After doing this for a few weeks, right, I will now move over and ask my guide to join me. Join me in this light. Together, we're going to sit. And I want you to just sit with the guide. Have them enjoy the light with you so that you understand what the energy signature of them is. So that when they show up, it will show up in the same energy signature every time. You'll know it's them. You'll feel it's them. And then eventually you'll start getting images in your mind's eye. You'll start knowing when they kind of sit and are there. They'll maybe show you the butterfly that they showed you before, just so that you know that it's them. The idea is to begin to get used to knowing when they're there, and then you begin to ask questions. How do we know each other? And sometimes the image in the gray space just outside that light will begin to kind of form like a movie that's going by, right? So just watch the movie, and the movie might be significant. Don't narrate the movie. Don't be like, oh, I see a house. Oh, I see a thing. Don't narrate. Let the things kind of go by, because the question was, how do I know you? How do we know each other? What did you used to do? You're beginning to form a relationship, right? How are you and source connected? How did this happen? Allow the things to kind of just move, but you have to allow them to respond. And sometimes they'll respond immediately. And sometimes it takes a few days to respond, and it'll be in your dreams. It'll be in like a repetitive thing that kind of happens for a few days, right? Or like, what's your name? And you keep hearing the word like Frankenstein, and that maybe their name was Frankenstein, right? Like, or whatever it is.
I hope so.
Or Einstein. I mean, whatever, right? So
Einstein.
It's really just allowing, but you have to allow and stop getting into the dance monkey dance and prove that you're there,
Mm.
because you're beyond that.
Yeah.
You're already beyond proving. Now it's, let's build the relationship. Let's really talk to the guide. Let's begin to trust it. Speaking out loud is beautiful. I do it to my guides all the time. People walk up to me and look at me like, what is this lady doing? Talking about the story. Where'd she get today? I don't know. Right? I'm talking in the air. I do it a lot. So that you're able to just kind of do that. But you've got to give time for that guide to respond, because remember, you're not as responsive either. If they've been trying to talk to you and you just ignore it, they've got to try to figure out how to get you the information.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it too.
Sometimes they slap in the face with it.
I get a lot of guilt from like doing the dance monkey dance thing, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it's not working right now. I got to go do something else and stop listening. And I feel really bad about that. I'm trying to find. I love this. Maybe not the context, but of the poltergeist light. But I do like. I love that idea of being.
That's just the way I see it.
Oh,
right?
I know exactly what you're
do
talking
it in
about.
any fashion.
Yeah.
Some people light candles and they bring the light of the candle over their body. Some people just immediately understand it as a shield. Some people, so it just depends on how you kind of understand how to sit in that protected space and just circle the energy back and forth, and then making room and allowing that guide to be with you. Set an intention in your hobbies, right? It's a form of meditation. The hobby that you're in, or the weird stuff that you like to do where you're like immersed in it, puts you in a meditative state. So set an intention in it and be like, hey, I'm about to sit down and, I don't know, glue crafts together. Why don't you come and join me? And then just kind of immerse yourself in that and kind of make note of the things that might the thoughts that might pop up in your head, right? And after you're done, write them down and then look at them later, right? Sometimes those things will happen, but you have to allow for it to happen, which is difficult when you have, small children. Right?
Yeah.
It is.
But like I guess that's the shower thoughts thing though.
Yeah.
Both of us, we get like, I was in the shower and I just had this idea just popped in my head. Like
beautiful.
Almost guaranteed that's like just being in the zone.
Yeah. And having
the shower is the only time you guys have to relax and you're alone.
Yeah. Really though.
I literally have to like wake up before the kids to give myself the time to try meditating. I say try. I'm still working on like quieting. I'm still working on the practice of meditating.
No. The moment you said the word quiet, I'm going to tell you that's not how it works, right?
Okay.
Meditation happens only to clear your mind and allow yourself to receive. That's what meditation does, right?
Yeah.
You can clear your mind while you're actively doing something. It doesn't have to be quiet.
Okay.
And you're zoned out when you're watching TV. You're not really watching the show. Your mind's just kind of somewhere else.
Yes.
Right? So it's not quiet. The things are kind of moving. Or people who like to listen to music and it gets them into a particular zone. They're in meditation. It's just applying an intention to it. Hey, why don't you sit here and join me while I'm listening to music or dancing or getting in stuff, right? It doesn't have to be sitting cross-legged, floating in the air in the quiet for hours at a time. Like that's just bullshit. You work.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I think that's a missing piece of this puzzle for us.
Yeah.
For you, definitely.
It is, because I always feel like I have to. There are times when like I go take a walk and I don't have music on, or just am like, let me just like look around, and it's almost like a walking meditation. So maybe even doing that, I can imagine a light shield.
Flow state, man. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Whatever gets you in that zone.
You can bring the light right over you, and then just walk.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's helpful.
Do the Star Wars. See the lightsaber just turn on.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? And then just start walking.
I like that.
That's great. Okay. That helps so much.
Yeah. What do you think, from your perspective and what we've described to you and what we're about, what do you think our next steps should be to developing our skills or getting to a place where we can help our family member be more comfortable with her abilities?
I think it's time to understand the steps, especially the things like meditation, right? There's so many ways for them to kind of channel what's happening to them, to kind of quiet out and shake out the noise, right? So they're going to need something like a way to get rid of the energy when they collect it, because they're so young. They're going to absorb everything that's kind of coming in, right? It's just kind of like a curse and a blessing of being young, right? You start absorbing everything comes in. So it's understanding how to get them to shake out that stuff that doesn't belong to them and have a developed way of almost teaching them how to do that as a way to lean on that response, to identify when things you're good and doing good, because you're saying identify things that aren't yours, right? Your energy that isn't yours. Once you identify it's not yours, then now you have to push it away, right? You have to return it to the person, or you have to put it into the ground, and you have to take it out of your body.
Right.
And then giving them things when they transition into stuff, giving them a way to just breathe in that source. Like they have to begin to start understanding what that source is for them. What is it? Right? Understanding what that is so they can understand how to bring in that light, move them into nature, right? Move them into that space, and developing systems of release of emotion all the time, right? Therapy is great at bringing shit up, but they're not good at telling you how to let that shit go, right?
Yeah.
So understanding how to develop that system of release. How do we let it go? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? And believing them, believing them, believing them. There is nothing more important than believing them, and believing them in a healthy way of even saying, can you describe what you experienced it? Can you draw it out? Did it say something? Was it a color? Trying to get them to see as much detail of what's going on, and then empowering them to understand that they are in control. Here's the boundary. I'm not following you. Call in mom, call in dad when they feel in danger, when they're sleeping, right? I taught that to my son at an early age because he had a lot of night terrors. And I would tell him, just call me. I will come into your dream and I'll take care of that shit. And he did it often, to where we would wake up and he would tell me about his dream, and I knew we had the same dream. Right?
Whoa.
I knew we were both together, and he still does it now as an adult. Sometimes we're in the same dreamscape together.
What?
So it's teaching how to do that, how to calm that energy in the space, right? My daughter blocks everything out. She completely calms the energy of the space. She took it, above and beyond. Let's just turn it down, right? Probably the best thing I ever had is snuggled up next to her. It's all quiet,
That's
right?
nice.
But now my grandson's doing the same thing, right? My grandson is now exhibiting a lot of this light and seeing a lot of things. And I'm like, just believe him. Believe him. Tell him to draw it out. Tell him if there's, something that's going on. And she's like, sometimes he sounds like he's making up stories. I said, it could be memories. It could be things that are coming in from something else. Don't completely dismiss it, but tell them this is not something that's in our reality here, right? That's not something that's here in the house, or that's not something that's going on now. Why is that important? So kind of understanding the difference between what we think it's in imagination, right? We could be their imagination. They could be just really good at telling stories, or they could be remembering something or picking something up from someone else.
Right. Yeah.
And just kind of working through it and going, okay, is that part of our reality? Is that something that is here, part of our everyday? Is that really something that's tied to you? Does it belong to you? Asking those questions is important.
Yeah.
Right. Making sure that they don't walk around thinking that they're crazy, but understanding that this is just normal.
That's awesome. Sara, thank you so much. Give all your plugs. So I know you have your own podcast as well, and tell us about Metaphysical U.
We
Where to
do.
find
We
you.
just launched our podcast in October. My partner, A.G. Sanchez, and I narrate through a lot of weird things with some of the practitioners from Metaphysical U. Dee Dee Hawk and Jax Wolf are just a great segment from it. We are trying to make the paranormal normal, right? So if you have some time, listen to MP Unleashed. We're on all the things, right? The Spotify's, the podcast things, we're on all the things. And hear what it's like to be part of this world from the perspective of a medium and a psychic and an energy worker, right? We go and look at these places not from proving that something is there, just to find out what it is. What is it? What is it really?
Yeah.
And how does that impact something else? And maybe, do a little bit of myth busting of what's going on out there.
Oh, cool.
That's fantastic.
And definitely, if you want training, if you're wanting to start, we have another round of our Foundations 1 classes starting in March. And that's really the at the core of who we are at Metaphysical U. Those are the classes that you want to take. And if you're somebody who's like, I don't want to commit to doing something like that, but I do have a lot of questions and a lot of things, join our Wednesday night development groups. We have an open to the public development group every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. The link is on our website. You just click and join us. It's just open, right? It's just there. And we do challenges, or we have really great discussions. We have practitioners from all over the world. Like I literally say all over the world, right?
Wow.
Will join us, here and there. And if you have time and you remember, hey, it's Wednesday night, I think I'm going to go join that online development group. I got a list of things I want to ask. Join us. We have people from very, very beginners, people who just want to learn, for people that have been seasoned practitioners for many, many years, just chatting, right? Chatting and doing stuff.
That's so cool. That's been on my to-do list for months now. I'm like, I follow you on Instagram and stuff. I've been wanting to join that. Join us. It's so fun.
See?
Yeah, I'm going to consider that a personal invite.
Yes.
I mean, making
Amazing.
paranormal normal is definitely, that's in our lexicon here. That's kind of what we're trying to do too.
Yeah.
So I love it so much. So I'm definitely going to be joining that on Wednesday.
You can always join us at Metaphysical U, the letter U.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. You've been an absolute pleasure to talk to.
Stay out of trouble. We'll talk soon.
No promises. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Visit www.clairvoyaging.com for show notes, merch, or just to say hi. If you'd like to support our journey, visit www.buymeacoffee.com/clairvoyaging. This has been a production of Wayfeather Media.